Hey everyone, Internet Business Book Reader here. Today I want to talk about Home Fire by Camila Samise. This book has been on my reading list for a while ever since it won the Women's Prize for Fiction on 2018, but it is not until now that I finally had the chance to go through it. And I'm so glad that I finally got the chance to read it, because it's really good. The story itself opened with Isma Pasha, a student from London who tried to move to America to study. But first, she had to go through the notorious America airport where even the boys at trash test has been stopped and interrogated. And Isma also got stopped here, being held and interrogated with some of the most stupid questions like her political opinion or her opinion on British Greatest Bake Off, until she missed her flight even when she came as early as 3 hours earlier. But she thankfully managed to get another flight to the Stranger's Kindness and arrive at Boston, and after a few weeks got herself somewhat settled at her apartment. She felt as she did most mornings, the deep pleasures of daily life distilled to the essentials: books, walks, spaces in which to think and work. She came to a stranger's country missing her sister Aneka and tried to find her on Skype when she saw her lost brother Parvais for a brief moment online status. These are how we are introduced to the siblings that she grew up with. Siblings that used to be very close but grew apart due to reasons that will be told as the story progresses. His name vanished from the screen. She touched her shoulder, muscle knotted beneath the skin, pressed down, and knew what it was to be without family, no one's hand but your own to minister your own suffering. While studying and writing essay for her class in Boston, she also met Iman, a young man from London whose father is a politician. They become close friends, and it is here that Iman saw a picture of Isma's sister Aneka, and also found out that Isma's father was a jihadist who abandoned his family. The reason why Iman's father was hated in her family as a politician was more personal than he knew. The story then continues by changing perspective from Isma to Iman when Iman returned to London. Still infatuated with Aneka after she saw her photo, he decided to visit her, and after some moments, these two young people unexpectedly become couple in such a short time. But Isma and Aneka hides the fact that Parvais, their missing brother, is actually gone from their home to go follow their dad's footsteps in becoming another extremist. We will follow their story as two opposing extremes force this couple to a dead end. It's a very well told story. It moved while changing its character point of view, kinda like how Game of Thrones did it with their POV shift. There are 5 points of view in the story, and all of them will bring something to the table. Isma, Iman, Parvais, Aneka, and finally the only adult in the story, Karamat, Iman's father. The romance aspect between Iman and Aneka is not the forefront of the story. In fact, it is actually quite short in the overall theme of the story, because we also have familial love and friendship, etc. Not just the one kind of love. But that doesn't mean they're not well written. I mean, listen to some of these quotes. I don't want my friends wanting to know when they can meet you. I don't want Auntie Nasem inviting you round for a meal. I don't want Isma thinking she can use you as a conduit to me. I don't want other people interpreting us. I don't want you wanting any of those things either. Just want me, here, with you. How had he ever imagined what he felt was passion, let alone love? Before Anika, there was only the facade of feeling, and now he was in so deep that everyone but Anika was blurred and indistinct. Poor creatures of the surface, their voices receding. He bowed his head and rested it against her, a moment of love between them that made all obstacles surmountable, even the ones around her heart. And the larger theme of the story is actually nurture versus nature, with quotes like, "For girls, becoming woman was inevitability. For boys, becoming man was ambition." There he said his father's son. It didn't matter if they were on this or that side of the political spectrum, or whether the fathers were absent or present, or if someone else had loved them better, loved them more. In the end, they were always their father's sons. That piece of information had made him blubber into his pillow at night, not because it made him understand that his father had never loved him, though he did understand that, but because he finally saw that he was his father's son in his abandonment of the family who had always deserved better than him. I mentioned this a lot of times, but it is a very well written story. At first, I didn't like how at the start the character seems to be unnecessarily shrouded in mystery, but after a while it makes sense because it is Isma's insecurities and pain at remembering some memories that cause the character background to be closed off. And for a romance that is as complicated as two people from such an extremely different background, which is basically just Romeo and Juliet, it never becomes too overtly melodramatic to the point of stretching your suspension of disbelief too far. These are the story of these young characters, stuck between two different styles of extremist parents, Isma, Aneka, Parvise, and even Iman all have fighters who are using their religion as a means to gain power, to feel superior, or to win. There are a few trigger warnings that I think you should look up before reading this, especially during Parvise's story, telling on how he is groomed using extremist tactics, so he will become dependent to one of them. We are shown in detail their physical and mental abuse to change his perspective on what matters. A lost boy looking for a father figure. When he is hooked to the point where he cannot get away from them is when they started to show them who they truly are. Merely power-hungry people who wanted the world to be easier to manipulate. Trigger warning not just for actual torture, but also the tragedies that will follow his choices. Finally, the last part with Karamat, we associate how predatory the world of politics really is. Whether it's the news or what they do, because what matters for them is winning. Just like debates, especially online debates. It doesn't matter if you didn't actually do the more human thing or the right thing, as long as you're winning. And a habit of doing this thing can really blind you with tunnel vision. Which is why it is important, just like Karamat, to have someone that can be a soundboard for you for a voice of reason. A few days ago, your greatest rival was a man born with a diamond encrusted spoon in his mouth, a party insider for years. And now it's this orphan student, who won for her brother what she never had for her father. A grave beside which she can sit and weep for the awful, pitiable mess of her family life. Look at her, Karamat. Look at this sad child you've raised to your enemy, and see how far you've lowered yourself in doing that. I highly recommend this story. It is less character-driven, but more plot-driven because of how it is written, but almost no word is wasted in the storytelling. Everything leads to the conclusion of the story really well. And while some character like Ismail might be underutilized, but it is given you enough to care about them. And what an ending it is! It is the type of ending that will most likely haunt me for the rest of my life, and if you give the story a chance, it might haunt you too. I won't spoil it for you mostly because I don't think I can convey it in a way that will do the writing justice, but yes, it is that good. I give this a 4.75. What do you think? Are you gonna read it? Did I miss anything? Leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it.